some of us who recruited him into politics had a mission. And I will reveal that mission today. General Buhari came into politics. It wasn't his province. He never liked politicians because he believed we are fake and that we don't mean what we say. But there was an incident that made some of us to recruit him, convince him, and use the other people to convince him to join politics. And even though we had our own agenda, because in 1999 and 2000, the OPC was on rampage in some parts of the country, especially Southwest, and have inconvenienced a lot of people from this part of the country. And to the extent that they mobilized over 500 vehicles to come and invade Ilorin with the sole aim of uprooting what they called Fulani structures in Ilorin. And we felt that was too much. And Obasanjo was doing nothing. President Obasanjo was doing nothing. President Bola Tinubu, then governor of Lagos, was doing nothing. And some of us felt that those group of people were being encouraged by their leaders in position of authority. So how do we stop that? And I called a meeting in Kaduna at Alhaji Bashir Alhatu's house in a place called Unguan Kaji, directly opposite the house of General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida. And some of those we invited included Alhaji Wadanas, Professor Yadudu, Bashir Alhatu himself, Alhaji Yahya Sulehamma, and a host of others, about 34 of us. And we sat down to reason, how do we save our people from this OPC menace? So we said, I suggested that we have to, because you remove government through only two ways, the bullet of through the barrel of the gun and through the ballot box. And they said it was impossible to challenge General Obasanjo. That was how Buhari came to our mind. And when he was approached, he had a very unkind words for politicians. But since he didn't say he was not doing, we still pursued him. To cut a long story short, we achieved our first purpose of putting a brake to what OPC was doing. Because immediately Buhari joined partisan politics, and we had a very big outing in Daura to initiate him into politics. The Obasanjo government became restive and was shaken to its bone marrow, and because those were some of his our thinking. So Obasanjo had to really checkmate the OPC. So for that reason, we have achieved our first purpose of bringing General Buhari into partisan politics. So the remaining now is history. They wanted to dismantle, as what is happening across the country now. They wanted to dismantle his platform of ANPP, APC, ANPP. And we made a counter platform by establishing the Buhari Organization, TBO, which we used as a platform for promoting his political ideals. Of course, all these are now history. Some smart people who are politically ambitious came in and threw us out. That is how we parted ways with him. Those of us who followed him blindly for 15 years, Adadiolamma as our leader, and myself as his deputy and the operational head of the Buhari organization, we agreed that we should not look for political appointment, or we should not look for elective office. Our idea is just to push General Buhari to become president, so that if we become the engine room of his government, we would now influence certain things in the country. And we had those things listed in our minds. And the greatest mistake was that, and it's what people also see as Buhari's inability to do well in government, because he has cut the umbilical cord, those who brought him and have ideas about what he has to do, and he recruited new people. And this...
Good morning, of course. Good afternoon. Good evening once again. Depending, of course, from where you hear my voice from. Yes, this is the Biafra Golden Child. And I decided to make a brief commentary about, a very, very serious remark, serious revelations made by Buba Galadima. Yes, a frontline, leader of the Northern People's Congress, the Arewa fraternity. Ladies and gentlemen, yes, let me condole with those who are still in the zoo. Let me condole them of the death of PMB, the man who, who not only became a head of state under the military, but equally became a two-time, full 8 years military civilian head of state. Yes, unfortunately he died, and he's been buried, because they said he died in a London hospital. And quickly, the Jagaban drafted Shatima, his vice, to go and get the body, accompany the body down for burial. And this was done, yes, on Tuesday. Of course, a public holiday was observed for that burial. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to go into the intricacies involved on who died, who was buried, how many people have died, how many Buharis have died, how many have been buried. I don't want to go into the intricacies of when Buhari died and when he's been buried. But I just want to go straight to, let's leave all that, to whoever and whatever cabal that gains from all those intrigues. I mean, this was somebody who we heard from good authority that he had died in 2017. And then, of course, we are hearing again that he's died in 2025. Like I said, let us leave it for them. That's not the cruise of today's audio. Yes, no, that's not in any way the reason why I want to make this audio this morning. No, what I want to tell my fellow Biafrans, what I'm bringing to the, menu today on the Biafra Superstars Media is what, seems to have been the major reason, the very, very reason why General Buhari was drafted into politics in the first instance. Yes, here we are today, Buba Galadima, yes, a frontline Hausa, yep, a frontline Hausa leader and Arewa fundamentalist politician, has, opened what might be described as the hornets. He has scattered the hornet's nest. Yes, he has come out with a very powerful proclamation. The reason, in fact, why Buhari was drafted into politics in the very first instance, away from his military career, was because they wanted to the north wanted to stop Yorubas from retaking Ilorin from Fulanis. Yes, because the way the Yorubas were going, the Oduduwas were going, then they could easily have taken Kwara State. When they take Kwara State, which is the major link between the north and the southwest, it could have been over for the Hausa Fulani hegemony on Yoruba land. So Buba Galadima said Buhari was drafted into politics to stop Yorubas from retaking Ilorin from the Fulanis. I think this is a very interesting heading. You can see when the wife of the late Buhari, Aisha, was screaming to high heavens that there's a cabal that have taken over her husband. There's a cabal that is more interested in Buhari than his family. There are people, yes, highly placed people, who have taken it upon themselves to, you know, take away her husband willy nilly. This is indeed a revelation. Yes. Well, let's go into some details about it. Yeah, on July 15th, 2025. Yes, the the online newspaper Galadima came out openly on July 15, 2025 to say that some northern leaders felt the need to take drastic action when the OPC mobilized heavily in the early years of the Fourth Republic. Buba Galadima, a prominent chieftain of the new Nigerian People's Party, the NNPP, has revealed that the late President Muhammadu Buhari's foray into politics was never his idea, but a strategic move to halt an attempt by the Odua People's Congress, the OPC, to dislodge Fulani structures in Ilorin. Speaking on Arise Television's morning show on Tuesday, Galadima explained that some northern leaders felt the need to take drastic action when the OPC mobilized heavily in the early years of the Fourth Republic. He says some of us who recruited him into politics had a mission, and I will reveal that mission today. Bula Baba, Buba Galadima said General Buhari came into politics. It wasn't his province. He never liked politicians because he believed we are fake and that we don't mean what we say. But there was an incident that made some of us to recruit him, convince him, and use other people to convince him to join politics. Even though, yes, Ubagaladema said there was an incident that made some of us to recruit him, convince him, and use other people to convince him to join politics, even though we had our own agenda. In 2000, the OPC was on rampage in some parts of the country, especially in the southwest. They had inconvenienced a lot of people from this part of the country to the extent that they mobilized over 500 vehicles to come and invade Ilorin with the sole aim of uprooting what they called Fulani structures in Ilorin. And we felt that was too much. That was too much. And President Olusegun Obasanjo was doing nothing. President Bola Tinubu, then governor of Lagos State, was doing nothing. And some of us felt that those group of people were being encouraged by their leaders in positions of authority. So how do we stop that? And I called a meeting in Kaduna at Alhaji Bashir Dahatu's house in a place called Dongo Kanji, directly opposite the house of General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida. And some of those we invited included Alhaji Wadanas, Professor Yadudu, Bashir Dahatu himself, Alhaji Yahya Suleiman, and a host of others, about 34 of us. And we sat down to reason, how do we save our people from this OPC menace? So I suggested that we have to, because you can remove a government through only two ways, through the barrel of a gun and through the ballast box. And they said it was impossible to challenge General Obasanjo. That was how Buhari came to our mind. And when he was approached, he had very unkind words for politicians. But since he didn't say he was not doing we still persuaded him. To cut long story short, we achieved our first purpose of putting a break to what OPC was doing because immediately Buhari joined partisan politics. We had a very big outing in Daura to initiate him into politics. The Obasanjo government became restive and was shaken to its bone marrow. And because those were some of our thinking, Obasanjo had to really checkmate the OPC. So we achieved our first purpose of bringing General Buhari into partisan politics. So the remaining now is history. So, ladies and gentlemen, you can imagine why, the man they call the PMB, President Ibrahim Mohamed Buhari, was drafted into politics. You can see the powers that be, the cabal that be. You can see that the North, a lot of people say the North are never sleeping when others are sleeping. You can see how the North that we regard as backward, as people who have not gone to school, as people who are not united, as people who don't have anything to do, who have no swag, people who are backward. You can see that when they decide to do anything, they come en masse, they join en masse, and they act en masse. You can see what Buba Galadima is saying today. He's a prominent leader of the NMPP. NMPP, yes, political party. You can see what they did when they felt that the Odua People's Congress, the OPC, were gaining grounds. We are trying to undo what they have achieved in the history of this country, how they have extended their hegemonic rule, yes, their jihadism, yes, to Kwara State, how they have used Fulani to depopulate and to hold Kwara State in the jugular. You can see how their reaction was. And of course, when they woke up at the dead of night, when other people were sleeping, while the southeasterners were sleeping, while the southwest were sleeping, while the rest of Nigeria were sleeping, these people held midnight nocturnal meetings. And within that space of time, while others were sleeping, they achieved a great deal. What did they achieve? They brought in a reluctant General Muhammadu Babangida who hated politicians. You had the pathological hatred, you can say, for politicians. The man who corrupt, who felt politicians were corrupt and not worthy of any serious cogitation. They should not be treated as human beings. In fact, it was under his watch that people like, during the Second Republic, when Shagari held sway, it was within the coup headed between that foisted the Muhammadu Buhari and the Tunde Diabo's government. You can see the length of time he was giving corrupt politicians. Some of them got 120 years, some got 150 years. You can imagine his mindset, how he hated politicians with a passion. And so these northern leaders connived within themselves and invited. They threw the carrot at him. Yes, you hate politicians, Buhari. Yes, you don't need them. Yes, politicians are corrupt, but you will be a messiah. Consider yourself a messiah. You will redeem the Fulanis, from the menace of OPC. Don't let us lose our formidable grip on, Kwara State, because Kwara State, of course, is our sledgehammer hold, our, you know, uh, our route into Yoruba land. If we lose Kwara, if Fulanis are defeated in Kwara by the OPC, by the Odua Congress, then of course the rest of the North is history. And of course, this passion was, was bequeathed into his soul. And of course, it engendered a passionate and a patriotic sentiment, patriotic for his Fulani people. And of course, he accepted to run. And of course, you can hear what Buba Galadima was saying. The then president, Olusegun Obasanjo, was completely rattled. He was shaken to the bone marrow. When a Hausa man uses that word, rattled and shaken to the bone marrow, you can imagine what it really means. That means Olusegun Obasanjo was almost a living dead just by hearing that Muhammadu Buhari was interested in taking over from him. Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes we underestimate the North, the people of the North, these Fulani people. We call them nomadic Fulanis. We call them Hausas, less educated, less aware, less exposed, but yet they have become champions in politics. They have become champions in achieving goals. Why? Because of their unanimity of purpose, because of trust. They trust themselves. When they decide on a goal, they all rush for it. When they decide on how to subjugate the North and South, the West and South, the South, they plan it together and they develop plans. Plans that will never be sabotaged. Plans that will never be leaked to any person. Unfortunately, this for the Southeast, for Biafra land, for the Southwest, for Duduwa Republic, the same is not. You cannot say the same because every time plans are, planned, every time methodologies are, constructed before they are implemented, of course, whistleblowers go and sell it out to the North, and it becomes a colossal failure. DOA, dead on arrival. You can imagine that these people will describe as not informed, uncivilized, not educated, local, quote unquote, local. People will describe as bushmen, nomads. You can imagine their political architecture. They get down at deep night when other people are sleeping, and they begin to plan. They begin to construct. They begin to determine the way forward, and eventually they succeed. You can imagine President Buhari ruled this country 8 years, back to back, 8 years, 2 terms, even haven't been a former head of state, because somebody like Buba Galadima, because massive people in the North, prominent people in the North, sat together and planned together. Why can we not plan together? In the Southwest, in the Southeast, look at our BSB, the USB. Look at what is happening. Every other day, the same kit and cane, the same people of Biafran extraction. They keep sabotaging the activities of our, Deputy Prime Minister, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. If they are not complaining this, if they are not accusing this, if they are not throwing banana peas on our way, they go out singing discordant tunes, all in a bid to frustrate her, to destroy our government, to derail our government, and to derail the hopes and aspirations of Biafrans. Look at our Southeast governors. Look at our legislators in the Southeast. None of them is proud to mention USB. None of them can come out openly and mention release Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. None of them have been bold enough to ever discuss the undue unlawful trial of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. All they are interested is how to better their lot for their families, for generations yet unborn. Fellow Biafrans, borrow a leaf from these people you call people who are uneducated. You call them the disenfranchised people. You call them, people who don't have swag. The North has shown you they don't only have swag, but they are politically much more experienced and much more proactive than the South, the Southeast, the Southwest. Ladies and gentlemen, anyway, this is not the trust of my audio this morning. The trust of my audio this morning is that the Yorubas should buckle up. You can imagine what you almost achieved because of your agitation for the Duduwa Republic. Someone like Chief Olusegun Obasanjo became the president because you agitated that, look, if MK Abiola won this election, and he was unceremoniously deleted. That mandate, on MKO's mandate, we stand. That's what we want. And without that, Nigeria cannot move forward. We'll make Nigeria ungovernable. Of course, Oduduwa people, Oduduwa efforts, the OPC efforts, engendered, produced the presidency of Chief Olusegun Obasanjo. But unfortunately, that great gain was truncated by people like Buba Galadima and a host of other northern leaders who sat together and decided to form a formidable platform. They wanted to bring a formidable platform to checkmate the OPC, to checkmate the Oduduwa Republic. And who did they choose? PMB himself, the man who has died severally, the man who has different faces. In fact, at the last count, somebody generated almost 11 faces for the same man who had become Muhammadu Buhari, who had become Jibrin of Sudan, who had become all kinds of names. Only time, and the United Kingdom government will eventually avail us of the real reasons why one single individual can die severally, several years apart. Only the United Kingdom, that have a pathological hatred for the South, East in particular, and for the South of Nigeria, but have a very pathetic, very criminal love for the North and the Fulani, because of course, they paved way for the full, complete colonization of this country. Because of course they had, you know, their emir system. Yes, they had the divide and rule worked very well for the British in the North, but failed woefully in the South because, of course, the Igbo man was a Republican by nature. We didn't believe in emirs, chiefs, or we didn't believe in serfdom. Let's put it succinctly as that. Ladies and gentlemen, I want the Yoruba people to wake up from their slumber. You almost got it, but you lost it. Rekindle yourself, regroup yourself, continue the Oduduwa struggle. It has become very obvious that Nigeria as a country is a contraption that was doomed ab initio to fail. It was doomed ab initio to fail. Lord Lugard and his cohorts planted, created this country with false foundations. And 100 and something years later, it has become very apparent that that product was doomed from the very day it was created, because it brought in different nationalities, people from different backgrounds, people with different ambitions, different cultural exposures, different religions, different levels of self-motivation, different motivating principles. You brought them together and say, become one. It's like forcing beans, yam, gari, potato, cassava, granite, make it a potpourri, a mesh of it, make it a potpourri of it into one pot. Let's see how it can cook. Let's see how it can cook, really. By the time the granite is boiling, getting ready, the cassava is yet to start. By the time the cassava is boiling, the potato is already soft. By the time the yam is boiling, the beans is not in any way affected yet by the fire. And so such an arrangement, it will be a complete failure, a fiasco, if you ask me. The Oduduwa people, I want to assure you that with these revelations from Buba Galadima, you can see that you almost had it. You almost had it. But fear gripped, fear and anxiety gripped your henchman, Olusegun Obasanjo, and he capitulated. Of course, fear, almost in a frenzy, he gave up. And the OPC relented. And today, Kwara State, the Fulani is in charge. They appointed the emir. Every prominent person in Kwara State, if you're not a Fulani, you must have extraction from the Fulani. And from there, they have continued to spread to other southwest. Even eventually, they are hoping through this so-called Ruga herdsmen going around, even equally to the southeast. But by the grace of God, with the formidable effort of the USB, people like Mazen Namdekan, who came out very early, even after 2017, screaming to high heavens that this man you call Buhari is gone. He died and he has been buried in Saudi Arabia. Why would you continue to parade him? Parade, a stranger, a clone as a president. He came up 2017. You were bold to say he has started it with every figure, and everybody heard him. Today, people are speculating. Today, people are still asking that big question. Who died in a London hospital? Was it Buhari or was it Jibrin from Sudan? People are still speculating. But like I said, only the United Kingdom, and Abakari, his special aide, will let us know. I mean, they should tell us why Aisha Buhari fled from her husband. She couldn't even imagine him coming close to her. Yes, and she fled to the UAE, stayed there until his death. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to encourage the Yoruba people, Southwest, all this idea of fighting against the Southeast, all this idea of trying to frustrate Biafra, to destroy Biafra, and to continue to think that we are competing. I mean, the Southeast is competing with Southwest. Those feelings should end. Those ungrounded postulations should end, because it makes us not to reason together. We are not the problem of the Southwest. You can hear Buba Galadima. The problem of the Southwest is the Fulani North. They continue to manipulate, they continue to trick, they continue to befuddle and orchestrate arrangements that continue to put the Southwest perpetually disunited. The same way, I'm sure, they foment, they create, they orchestrate arrangements, visible and invisible, that makes the Southwest continue to suspect the Southeast as their enemy, as their competitor. We're not competing with you. Go on. We have our USB and we are fighting to the end. The USB is vigorously fighting to the end to achieve a sovereign United States of Biafra. And we're happy the 47th president of the US and the international world leaders have recognized us. We're encouraging the Oduduwa people not to relent. You have heard what, yes, somebody threw a spark in your wheel of progress. Somebody threw a spark into your wheels. You can hear Buba Galadima saying loud and clear, yes, yes, we were the ones who made sure by bringing General Muhammad Buhari, we brought him to be a wheel, a thorn to the Yoruba people, to destroy the unity of purpose between the OPC and the Oduduwa group, so that they don't in any way infiltrate and override Kwara. You can imagine the ambition of a people we call dollars. The people will say, I'm not educated. They don't have swag. They're always in their mosque. But while you are sleeping at the night, they blossom. That is the activity. They wake up in the night and like they congregate and begin to plan, resource, build up, sponsor, maneuver, orchestrate, and begin to shoot. By the time you wake up, of course, the harm is already done. You become useless. That's why, with all the education the Southwest has, with all the education the Southeast has, we have continued to be marginalized. We have continued to be subjugated. We have continued to be mesmerized by the North, the Fulani North. Ladies and gentlemen, this audio is not only for Biafrans. If you have Oduduwa friends, share it to them. Let them know, look, see what happened. You almost achieved, you rattled these people. You shook them. With your OPC, with your Oduduwa Congress, they were rattled. They were once afraid of you. But of course, as soon as they brought out this clueless leader, one-time general, one-time head of state, General Muhammad Buhari, they achieved what is still very, very much affecting the Southwest, the cohesion of the Southwest and the Southeast today. Oduduwa Republic, this is your chance. Do not relent. USB is not relenting. We are not relenting. Yes, they will have our prominent leaders in the Gulag. Yes, they are undergoing trials. Mazen Namdekan in the hands of Justice James Omotosho. And Simon Ekwa, Prime Minister, in the hands of Finnish authorities. But we are not scared. We are not in any way intimidated. No way. We are not derailed. We are still forward-looking. They cannot achieve. Maybe they deceived us in the past. They deceived us when somebody like Wazirike was there. They deceived us with people who were chasing their own private agendas, not that of Biafra. But today we have leaders, formidable leaders who have sacrificed everything. Mazen Namdekan sacrificed everything for Biafra, for the USB. And we are proud to stand behind him. Simon Ekpa sacrificed everything. A glorious career in the military, in politics in Finland. And today, today, we rally around him and we have our formidable, elegant stallion. Yes, cerebral Dr. Ngozi Arabueze, the queen of the park. Yes, take it or leave it. She holds the 4 aces in her hands and she's navigating Biafra to routes never before explored, to routes never before imagined, to routes that are leading to success, to achievement, and to a glorious end, a glorious climax. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Dr. Ngozi Arabueze, the Deputy Prime Minister of Biafra. We will get there. She's walking relentlessly. She's saying it the way it should be said. She's talking the talk. She's walking the walk, and we are headed somewhere. I encourage the Duduba people, borrowing from Dr. Ngozi Arabueze. I encourage the Plateau people, borrowing from Dr. Ngozi Arabueze. Get a formidable champion, one who can speak, one who can talk, one who can walk the talk, and tell the whole world enough is enough. My people have been brutalized enough. My people have been manipulated enough. My people have been treated with all manners of wickedness because of nothing. Nothing. Because of simplicity, because of trust that we actually have a united country. Not knowing that every night, Buba Galadima and his like are seated playing this contraption called Nigeria like a chess. Determine who goes there, determine who stays here, determine what is done here, determine who gets what. Wake up from your slumber, Oduduwa religion. Wake up from your slumber, Oduduwa Republic. Wake up from your slumber. The Biafra, United States of Biafra, has decided no going back. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I look forward to more audios. Let's continue to get your feedback and comments, and let's move forward. Yes, United States of Biafra is our destination, is our hope, is our final bus stop. God bless you all. Look forward to another audio, another topic, and let's pray. Wish Biafra well and continue to support Dr. Ngozi Arabueze. God bless you all. Thank you.
Yeah, check me out. Superstars Media. Lord Logan, Bloomington, Lord Logan, and it's wild Flora show. 1914 amalgamation is what we dying for. 3 nations to 1 nation. Ever since annihilation, nepotism is nonsense. You and you, clap your hands. Biafra gonna come, clap your hands. Biafra, Oduduwa, we're free now. Freedom is gonna come, we're free now. Yeah.